Hi, everyone. This is Raquel.
Hi, and this is Jennifer.
Welcome to Madness Cafe.
This is a feminist podcast where we talk about women's issues, politics, and health and wellness.
And where those issues intersect. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Madness Cafe. Today, it's just going to be me and Jennifer. And we are going to talk about how do we deal with change?
Changes.
You're such a good singer.
That's all I know.
Voice of an angel.
That's it. That's it. No other words.
Yeah. You're so musical today. I love it. How do you deal with change? How do you deal with, plans changing at the last minute, or you're all set for something, you had a plan and then it changed for whatever reason? Like, how do you deal with it? So that's what we're going to talk about today. And things change on a dime sometimes here on the show. Even like we'll have a guest scheduled and schedules will change, things happen, and we just roll with it. And so that kind of stuff comes up in life too. So that's one of the things that we wanted to talk about.
River.
Wow,
rolling. I don't know what's with me today. Rolling down the river. Time may change us. I don't know.
I love it. You're in a good mood. You're just very, effervescent and musical.
Yeah, I'll see if I can keep it up for the whole episode.
Okay,
we'll see what happens.
So is that how you deal with change?
And no, it's just water I'm drinking.
It's just water. So is that how you deal with change? By just singing, Jennifer? Well,
I think I'm a unique individual because for the most part, I like change. And I think I could be wrong, but I think most people don't. And when I say I like change, I don't mean like the change where suddenly someone in your family gets diagnosed with something awful, or you lose a loved one, or divorce is inevitable, or you break up with somebody. That kind of change is not what I'm talking about.
Yeah. We're not, I don't think we're talking today about like change that just completely upends your life. Yeah. But like because some people just aren't even really good with just like a little bit of change.
Well, here's my thing. I wake up almost every morning in a really great mood. I've always been that way. I don't know why. I'm blessed. And I'll have a list of 100 things I'm going to do. And I'll make plans for later in the day. But as the day goes on, I get tired. And so if someone were to call me and say, hey, I know we were supposed to have dinner tonight, but I can't do it. Sometimes I'm like, whew, thank God. Seriously, because I'm an overbooker. Sometimes change is like a godsend, for a lack of a better word, for me. And change at work is really the only way I can keep going to work every day.
What do you mean? Talk about that a little bit more.
So I have friends who find a lot of security and consistency. And if their job changes, Raquel's pointing to herself.
I like a little consistency, but we'll get into that later.
Right. But this is like, I think this is a huge personality trait. It also might be my ADHD. I don't know, because I'm undiagnosed. I'm just kind of self-diagnosed. So I have a lot of friends who they get into their job. They want it to be the career for their whole life. They like the consistency of day to day. They like the 9 to 5, having the weekends off. For me, that kind of stuff is great in the beginning. But as soon as I learn the job and I can do it really well, I don't really want to do it anymore. And that's been a character flaw of mine for a very long time. Or it is something, I guess it could be seen as a character flaw if I wanted stability in my work, which I don't necessarily want. Stability in a paycheck is nice, but work, I embrace change because my head needs it to stay motivated.
Got it.
I need it to.
Got it.
One of the problems I was having before I left my job is that the work I was doing, I was very competent in, and
Mm,
I almost, bored is not really the right word because I like the work, but
mm,
the monotony is very hard for me. My attention span, it can get really short.
got it. Got it. That makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think of that? Like, how do you feel about that?
I think I'm somewhere in the middle, right? I definitely am not a huge fan of sudden big changes. Definitely like the life upending stuff, right? But that's not really where we're going. As far as work goes, or even like life, I like a little bit of structure, but then within that structure, I like variety, right? Like I like I like to have a container and then there's some variety within that, right? Um like as far as jobs, like I know kind of day to day what's expected to me of in my job. And this is, with every job, like what's expected of you, right? You know what you need to get done. But what I like is that each day is going to be a little bit different because there's different situations that come up. I'm not micromanaged. I'm not living by the clock. Like I don't have to take my lunch at the same time every day. And I don't have to at 3:22, you have to do this task. I mean, like my job is not structured in that way. So that's awesome. So I get to have some maneuverability within that. I'm like that in just my daily life too. Like for the most part, I can pretty much just kind of go with the flow. But there's a part of me that likes to know that certain things are in place and aren't going to change. Like I could never be one of those people who just live down the road all the time. Like I need a home base.
I fantasize about that, but I don't know if I could do it either.
I like the idea of being able to travel a lot. I like that a lot because I like going to new places and I like learning new stuff and I like having adventures and meeting new people and all the things. I like all of that stuff. But I like having somewhere to come back to, kind of like having a touchstone.
Uh-huh.
Like that's how routines function for me, or structure functions for me. It gives me a touchstone. So if I start to feel too uh kind of untethered, or if I feel like I'm being kind of like tossed around by the whims of the universe, I have a touchstone, right? So then it makes me feel a little more like, okay, here's something that I have a little control, not necessarily control over, but this is something that it helps to center me, maybe,
Hmm.
you know? Yeah, so I think that's how I look at it. But, I was thinking about this. Actually, I've been thinking about this over the last few days, but one thing that I think has changed for me over time is that I'm maybe a little less, what's the right word? I don't know, curmudgeonly maybe about change. Like it used to be that I would get really kind of upset about things changing. Like this is what I had planned, this is what I was going to do, and now I can't do it, and blah 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 blah, and like all of this kind of stuff. And thinking on it, I think maybe the fact that I'm not like that anymore or all the time is maybe a function of a few things. Like maybe it's age.
Hmm.
Maybe I've just grown up a bit and I've matured a little bit, hopefully. Only a tiny bit. Just a tiny bit. Therapy probably has helped with that.
Hmm.
And then there was something else that I had on that I was thinking might have part of this too. Just having better coping skills, maybe, is the other thing.
I could see that.
Yeah. And because I mean, there have been times where I'm like, look, I had this planned, I was going to do this, and da, 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 and then somebody comes along and they ruin it and blah, and then I'm just like freaking out and going off in my head, or or even show it on my face, or I get snippy or whatever, and that has calmed way, 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 way down. And I I think one thing for me is when I get in situations like that where I'm reacting that way to things, where I'm just, maybe not taking things in stride, that's a sign for me that something's out of whack, something's out of balance. And it's either I'm tired, or I'm not taking care of myself somehow, or I'm burned out, or I need a vacation day or something,
hmm
right? And I think I'm maybe a little bit better about paying attention to that, and kind of taking a step back and going, "Ooh, I need to either go outside and get some fresh air and take a minute, or I need to schedule a vacation day because I need to work on my attitude a little bit,
hmm
or I need to figure out what's going on with me."
So that's interesting when you say all that. It made me really kind of evaluate my thoughts on me saying, "Oh, I really love change. I embrace change,"
Hmm.
because two things came out of, my self-reflection on that. Number one, when you said you like to have your touch base or your home base, or
Hmm.
I completely like to have my home base as well.
Hmm.
I've created a home, although many would describe it as messy and hectic. It's I think of it as my safe bubble. Like I
Yeah.
have this safe bubble to come home to. And although I do fantasize about kind of like the nomad life, I don't know if
Hmm.
I could really do it,
Yeah.
because I do like having my home. And then the second thing, routines. I have learned over the last year that I am really a very, very structured person. I
Hmm.
get up, I mean, over the summer, it was my first summer not working. I did all kinds of stuff that I don't normally do, and it was a lot of fun. But by the end of the summer, I was kind of yearning for my routine, because
Oh
my
yeah.
routine is like, I get up every day, I take Gabby to school. Well, first I feed my dog, then I take
Hmm.
Gabby to school, then I go on the walk or the run, then I do my work, then I do my lunch, then I do my yoga, then I do my, like, I am
Yep.
really actually a very structured person.
Hmm.
So I guess I don't really enjoy change to my structure, but I enjoy change to content. So
Yes.
there is a, maybe I don't really embrace change as much as I've been tooting my horn for.
Well, but I think you touched on something though. You like changing your content,
hmm
right? Like you don't want monotony in your life. I
No,
think I think sometimes people confuse routine with monotony, and they're not necessarily the same thing.
they don't have to be,
Right, right, right. Yes, yes. Yeah, they don't have
but
to
they
be.
could easily become that if we didn't pay attention.
Yes. Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you. Like for me, like with work, and I've always been this way. Like I get to work and I go through my email, and my email kind of becomes like my to-do list. And I've been like that for years and years and years and years. So at the beginning of the day, before I check my email, if you're like, "Hey, what do you have on your plate today?" I mean, I could have like a general idea of like kind of overarching stuff that I need to get done. But as far as like the day to day, minute to minute, I'd be like, I don't know, I need to check my email first. Like I need to see what's coming up. Like, what are people asking me for? What crisis do I need to make sure doesn't actually become a crisis, right? Like
Yep.
what do I need to address right now or in the moment that I need to go ahead and take care of it. And then between those emails, or between the, "Hey, take care of this right now," what do I do in between those things?
So those things which people could consider like a on the minute change, suddenly your
Mhm.
priority has changed. That doesn't bother you?
That does not. It only, well, it generally does not. Like if I've got, some time sensitive thing that needs to get done, like I need to get it done by the end of the day and it's going to take all day, or, I'm working under a time deadline, then I really have to work on managing my time.
Mhm.
And I also have to work on prioritizing what needs my focus right then and right there. And I need to be able to tell what can be farmed out, like, and who can help me with said task. And I think some of that comes from just knowing my job really well. And some of that I think comes from, and I don't think this is necessarily an age thing, because there's people far younger than me who are good at these things and who became good at it before I did. But I think it's one of those things that you learn over time, of trying to figure out, what do I prioritize over something else, and who can I maybe reply to and go, hey, I'm in the middle of this, can this wait until whatever,
Oh, so asking
or
for what you need.
yeah,
Yeah.
which I have not always been good at. That's been a developing coping mechanism for me.
Mhm.
I've not always been good about that. So yeah, and actually, now that I think about it, I used to be, oh man, I used to be one of those people where, and I'm not saying I'll never do it again, and it doesn't happen now, but far less. I used to be one of those people that if something bad happened, I immediately went to the worst case scenario. I would catastrophize the hell out of something. Like,
Ah,
if you wanted to know what the worst case scenario is, come to me. I'll help you figure it out. Like, I know what the worst case scenario is going to be, and usually it always ended up with, I'm going to be living in my car, or I'm going to be homeless, or I'm going to be eating cat food. Like, it always
cat food's
just
expensive. Why
spiral.
do people always say that? Cat
Oh,
food
I
is
don't know.
super expensive.
I know.
I
I
feel
know.
like
It
you're
is.
gonna be eating spam or something like that. Because isn't spam like the cheapest thing you can get? I don't know.
Probably. I don't know. I just don't catastrophize as much, which I'm sure my therapist, if she listens to this, will be like, oh, we have made progress.
That's nice. So I have heard for years and years and years, and I don't know if this is true or not. It's just one of those things that people say. They say people hate change, people don't like change, blah, blah, blah. Right? Do
Hmm.
you feel that you are resistant to change or you're more flowing with it?
Uh, I think I can be somewhat resistant to it, but I generally have learned to keep that to myself, at least until I know more about the situation. Because my first reaction sometimes is, oh, come on.
Hmm.
What?
Hmm.
Why are you changing things? But I know myself well enough to know to keep my mouth shut until I know more, because my first reaction is not always the right one.
Right, right. I
Yeah.
was watching this thing today. This guy, I can't pronounce his name. I'm not even going to try.
Okay.
He's a mystic and a guru. And he said, resisting change is resisting life. And then he went
Oh.
on to talk about why that was, and that the only state of no change is actually in death. And that,
Oh.
and that people as they get older resist change more because they get more comfortable in their what they perceive as their security in life.
Hmm.
And that we like he made this example of like when you're 15 or 16 years old and you're just like going for living and you're not
Hmm.
really concentrated on your security, and you're in a lot of ways you're kind of ignorant to the fact that jumping off the building could kill you and things like that when you're 15.
Yeah.
I mean, think of all
Yeah.
the things we did when we're 15 and 16, right?
Oh,
But we were
girl.
living. And
Or
he said as people
20.
get older, sometimes they prioritize their security over their potential for experience. What do you think of that?
Oh, I do see that in a lot of people.
Do
I
you
do
see it in
see that.
yourself?
I don't, because I see experiences and adventures as good things.
Yeah.
And I want to have more experiences, and I want to have more adventures. And
But can you
yeah,
perceive change as an experience and adventure? Like, let's say, for example,
sometimes.
exactly. Because let's say, for example, it was a real small change, like you had to change the travel plans, so you had to do something different than you expected. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's an adventure. But let's say let's say, like, this is kind of a worst scenario kind of thing, but let's say
Okay.
you were married and your spouse died, right? That would
Mm-hmm.
be a
Mm-hmm.
big unexpected change. Could we perceive that as an adventure? That's what he was talking about. A new way you
Mm.
now have to live life. I don't think any of us go, yeah, yeah, let me experience that, right?
I see what you're getting at, and I think yeah, there's a big change there.
A big unknown.
And yeah, it's a big unknown, and yes, there's a lot of heartbreak with it, but on the other side of that is it's a different life, but there's still potential for joy and happiness and love of all
Life,
types.
living,
There's
wanting to
life, there's
live.
still life on the other side of that,
Well, there could be.
right?
For
There
some
could
people
be.
there is, and for some people there isn't.
Right. But even the people who say that it isn't, I mean, they're still alive. Maybe they're not living, but they're still alive. And they did make that choice to just not live.
He said that people who resist change,
Hmm.
it starts with frustration
Uh-huh.
and then depression. And those
Yeah.
two things are the killers of life.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is just something I saw, and I thought
Yeah.
we should
Yeah.
talk about this because it's a really interesting concept.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, like, I mean, when we have those moments of depression, it is really hard to pull our ass out of bed and experience
Yeah.
life,
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
right? Of course it
Um,
is.
yeah. Yeah. And I think having a routine or having a touchstone of some sort can help you get through that. I mean, yeah, with depression, yeah, sometimes you do need to just, and with any emotion, you have to just let yourself feel it
Mhm.
sometimes. And that's hard. I'm not saying that's easy at all. And I'm not saying I'm always very good at it. But sometimes you have to just let that, you have to let those feelings kind of come through you. And
Well,
you just have to experience. And then eventually you have to start coming out of it,
yeah.
whether it's just, hey, my routine today is that I took a shower, or my routine today is that I brushed my teeth and took my meds, or I got out of the house, I got out of the bed, that sort of thing.
Well, some would say even the process of, what did he say? Change is resisting change is resisting life. He
Hmm.
would say that even the feeling of, or some would say, even the feeling of depression or frustration, or these things that we perceive as negative emotions,
Hmm.
even that is the experience of life. We are
Mm.
experience if we choose to, as you said, be with ourselves and feel that emotion, we are experiencing a piece of life. That is to
Hmm.
live,
Hmm.
right? Am I getting too
Yeah.
philosophical?
No, no, I no, I kind of dig that. I dig conversations like this actually, because yeah, but yeah, because there, life will change all the time. There will be
Eh,
changes,
right. The only
right?
constant
What
is change.
exactly? So whether it's change in your mood, change in your life, change in your emotion, change in the weather, change in a job, it's how you experience it, it's how you react to that change that I think dictates what comes after a little bit.
Right. But I could see this going two different ways. I could see
Okay.
it going a Pollyanna kind of way,
Hmm.
which I've done in the past. So I can throw
Uh-huh.
this out. This is me. Something I don't like happens, it's a change. And I do the ultra positive thinking thing where I'm like, oh, it's okay. I'm fine. Everything's good. But I'm not really feeling my feelings.
Ah, yeah.
That's sort of a cop out. Or it
Hmm.
could be the thing where something happens and I'm not really liking it. And I could choose to be with myself, sit with my feelings, and then embrace the change. And
Hmm.
even though it could look from the outside like the first choice is is the one that gets you moving,
Mm-hmm.
but it really could be the second choice, the one that allows you to experience life. Because if we suppress these emotions like depression, anger, etc., then are we fully able to then move forward with it and feel the joy or whatever is coming next? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
I think people maybe think that, you know, if I push this down, I can get stuff done and then I can continue with my life. I get
Yeah,
that.
me.
I get that. But it's gonna come out another way. And it's gonna come out in, you know, like crazy ways. Like I know for me, if I am not taking care of myself and if I'm ignoring all of the signs that, hey, I need to take a break, I, you know, I need to do whatever. Like I need to do something different because whatever I'm doing is not working. If I'm just pushing that down, I'm ignoring all the signs, then it's gonna come out in a really inappropriate way. Like I'm gonna snap at somebody. I'm gonna be ultra bitchy about something. Like my face is gonna show all kinds of attitude when it's not necessarily, you know, appropriate for the situation. Or somebody's gonna be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't make dinner tonight," or whatever, and I'm just gonna have a meltdown and be like, "But it's dinner, oh God!" It, you know, when it's not really the end of the world.
Right.
So, at least for me, I can't just shove stuff down all the time. And the fact that I don't, or I try not to shove things down, doesn't mean that I'm talking about them all the time. It just means that I'm at least addressing them to myself, and I'm at least thinking things through. I should be journaling them, but you know, I'm working on being more consistent with that.
No shoulds. I think I think for years I was really kind of out of touch in some ways with how I really felt. And I think,
Mm,
you know, the one thing I really learned from Alyssa Cousins, is that how you say her name? Cousins?
cousins.
Cousins, when she was
Hmm.
on, was she was talking about embodiment. And I didn't really
Hmm.
get it when we were on the episode with her. But later, after watching her posts and reading some more from different authors on it, etc., I started to realize that embodiment kind of meant feeling your feelings, your emotions, etc., and your body. And
Hmm.
I wasn't doing that. I
Hmm.
was, I woke up every day happy. I can't help it. That's just my natural state. But I
Yeah.
just stayed in that state without like being real about what I was actually feeling, the
Well,
emotions,
or
etc.
I wonder if maybe you were just going through a happy time. Like maybe there was nothing for you to,
I have a brain
you
that
know.
compartmentalizes.
Okay.
So now that I've been in therapy for over a year and I've been connecting the kind of childhood stuff, the adult stuff,
Hmm.
what I have realized is that I gloss over the things that I don't like.
Got it.
I just gloss over them. Well, not anymore because I'm working on embodiment.
Right.
But to me, that concept was really hard when we had her on the show because I was like, I don't get this. I'm not understanding
Hmm.
this. But now I get that if you're not putting it in a little box and shoving it away and hiding it, that you will actually experience and feel it, and you will
Hmm.
feel it in your body. I
Right.
felt nothing, Raquel. I did not feel
Wow.
it in my body. I could
Hmm.
be angry intellectually,
Hmm.
right? Angry intellectually, which I'm still working on this. I'm still working on like my sexual assault stuff. I
Hmm.
am angry intellectually. I am not being able to tap into the rage. And I feel like I really need to be able to tap into this rage
Hmm.
in order to embrace and move forward into this change that I'm seeking. Does that make sense?
It does. And I wonder, do you have an idea of what touching or what tapping into that and embodying that rage will look like?
Yeah, I think you know, therapy is really helping, but I think one of the one of the things that I learned as a child,
Mhm,
and this is sad, this probably happens to a lot of people, and I probably, some of this was my circumstance of how I was raised or whatever, but also this is how I personally internalized it. Not everyone
mhm,
would do this same thing. In
mhm,
fact, my brother and sister didn't. But what I learned to do, why they were emoting all over the place with their alcohol and drug abuse and all of that, and
mhm,
I was finding that having those emotions was unacceptable.
mhm.
So I stopped feeling them. I stopped,
Right.
and I put them in a little box inside of myself and I wrapped it up. What I'm realizing when I talk to my therapist, because we're getting closer to this, but there's part of me that doesn't want to let go and feel that rage
Mhm.
because I know it's gonna fucking explode. It's just
Yeah.
gonna go. And to me, that feels like a loss of control. I have spent my
Mhm,
whole life controlling every situation,
mhm,
which is one of the reasons I'm not really in a successful relationship, because
mhm.
to do that, you have to let go of some control, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And this is also why people fear change, because change is a loss of control.
Yes.
Yeah. So, anyway, I'm going to blow that lid one of these days and it will be what it is.
Mhm,
But I'm learning, I'm starting to, even talking about this, I can feel it in my body, whereas
mhm.
before I never could.
Interesting,
Yeah, I never could.
interesting.
I'm learning to feel like I feel sort of like fear coming up my spine about the
Mhm.
loss of control. Like what you said before, if I implode, people won't like me.
Yeah.
If I'm that angry, people won't like me if they see who I truly am. And I don't believe that my anger is who I truly am, but I believe that I was a child who had very angry feelings,
Mhm.
right? But I
Yeah,
never
yeah.
expressed them.
Right.
I was the people pleaser.
Yeah, same,
Yeah.
same. Yeah. One thing that came up for me when you were talking is you talked about your brother and your sister emoting by using alcohol and drugs, but I don't think that I would necessarily say that they were emoting, they were buffering. And I think we all do that to some extent. We buffer
Yeah.
because it's easier. And
Right.
I'm not, I mean, I do it. I do it. I buffer all the time. I'm aware of it. I'm more aware of it now than I used to be. And I'm trying to do better about buffering in a better way than using some of the other things to buffer that I have or maybe still do. Maybe the buffering comes from not knowing how to handle whatever the change is that's happening.
100%.
Yeah. And so as little kids, we don't know. I mean, unless somebody teaches us, and grown-ups don't always know. So you did what you thought you were supposed to do, which was, hey, I'll make everybody happy. I'll be the happy kid. I'm not going to express any negative emotions because my
That's
sister
off
and
limits.
brother are expressing all that stuff. And I see how it's making other people feel. So I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I
Right.
have a really strong core memory with that I've been thinking about a lot. And when I was writing the other day, this memory came up. When my mom left my first stepfather,
Hmm.
she was already dating my second stepfather. And I
Hmm.
remember the two of them being on a date, and I was there with them for whatever reason. There was probably no babysitter for me or whatever.
Hmm.
And they were like totally into each other. When
Hmm.
you're first dating someone, they were
Yeah.
like, and there was a box, like a cardboard box, and I was
Hmm.
playing with it because it was like the only thing to do. And I had a very good imagination as a kid. I would play with a deck of cards if you gave them to me, and I would turn all of the red ones into women and all of the black ones into men, and then they would make I would make families out of them.
Wow.
I could always self-entertain, right? And I remember my soon-to-be stepfather saying to my mom, "Oh, she is such a great kid. We don't even have to pay attention to her. Look how she'll play with that box for hours." And I clearly remember him saying that. And I now realize that I internalized that. That was validation. That
Yep.
was be quiet, entertain yourself, be happy all the time, and everyone around you will be happy. I know that that's where that came from now. I was proud of myself. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
look, I'm a good kid. I don't draw any attention. I can quietly play with a box for how many hours I was playing with this box. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about that other than okay, here's what I want to say. I completely changed my mind from the beginning of this conversation when I said I embrace change.
Okay.
Now I realize for years and years and years, I probably thought that work related, but I can see how I really resisted change because I didn't want to go to therapy. I thought everything was just fine. I liked the status quo. I liked the control I had on my life. It was only when I really, truly wanted something different that I went to therapy because I wanted the change more than I wanted things to stay the same.
Yes. Yes. But here's the thing, and I think you need to give yourself credit for this, is you did make that change because you're like, it's too painful to stay stuck where I am right now. And there's plenty of people who never make that change. They just stay stuck in their situation that they've either outgrown or that's too painful for them or whatever, because they don't like change or they're afraid or they don't
Well,
know what's on
I'm
the other
really
side.
afraid. I'm really fucking afraid. I'm afraid to watch the rage come up and explode all over everyone.
It may not explode all over everyone though. It may not, because you're doing the
I got a lot of rage, Raquel, that needs to come out.
and it will. Oh, okay, fine. Well, let's go down that path. So what if, you embrace the anger and the rage and you embrace the change that's going to come from tapping into it, expressing it, feeling it, letting it have its say? Like what do you see as like the worst thing that could happen?
Oh, well, I was going to tell you the good that could happen because that's me, Pollyanna.
Well, I do want to hear the good that you think is going to come from it, but obviously you're afraid of what bad could happen. In my head, obviously you're afraid that,
Yeah.
but
I think the thing that scares me the most, honestly, is just really feeling it because it's painful. I
okay.
feel some pain around. I know that the rage is around. I love my parents, so it's hard to feel rage towards them. That's painful. And I'm pretty sure that my first stepfather sexually molested me, but I'm too young to remember it for sure. And so I have rage around that because I was probably 3 years old, and that's fucked up.
Yeah.
That's fucked up. And I know that those things, that thing that happened to me, I didn't do. And because it was locked away in a little box somewhere in my subconscious, I know that has affected my life and my relationships, and that pisses me off. See, I can say that intellectually. Can't really feel that yet. I know that's the next step. So
Okay.
I guess I'm just afraid of the pain. I know it's going to hurt.
Well, what good do you think is going to come out of it?
Oh, well, see, I think the good is going to be amazing because I realize after doing so much reading and therapy and self-reflection, I know that I have always embraced the part of myself that I'm proud of, but I have not always embraced the part of myself that I see as, I don't know, I don't know if damaged is the right word because I don't feel that anymore, but I think I would have described myself for years as being damaged. Like I was damaged by my parents' divorces and I was damaged by this or that or the other thing.
Yeah.
But now I see it as a shadow self, this side of myself that I tried to keep hidden, that doesn't deserve to be hidden, that there is no reason to feel shame for, that there is no reason to hide, that is part of me. And then what I know will happen is that my shadow self will integrate with my light self and I will be whole. I know that's what will happen.
Yeah.
Well, why don't I just jump in? I don't know. I should just jump in.
Because pain sucks.
Because pain sucks.
Is hard.
Because pain and fear and
ideal.
Yeah. But I know that is what will happen. I know it in the pit of my soul. I can feel it.
Yeah.
I can feel it.
You're definitely getting closer for sure.
Yeah.
And I think you're, well, and you've said it yourself, you're getting closer to being ready for it.
Therapy helps, man. Therapy helps.
Yeah, for sure.
Actually, talking to you every week helps.
Oh.
Yeah, it really does.
Oh, good.
Because I feel like we don't have the same life. We have some parallel situations. We have some things that are completely different. Just talking it out with a trusted friend helps.
Yep.
In front of whoever listens to our podcast.
Well, you know what? But in that case, we are helping other people.
Maybe.
As well. Because somebody else is probably listening going, ooh, they just put all that out there. And then they're like, oh, but I can do that too.
About her shadow self and her sexual abuse and all of it. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I was talking to somebody earlier today and talking about the podcast, and they kind of made a comment similar to, she was talking about how she would be nervous talking. And I was like, we're just having a conversation. And she's like, oh, and people don't really know you because, you're just, and I go, well, actually, I feel like people who listen to the show probably know us pretty well because we're pretty damn open and pretty candid on here. So yeah, I don't know. There you go.
I mean, taking on the podcast was a huge change for both of us.
Yes, very much. And so I think with me too, another thing that helps me deal with change, and this is maybe part of like the whole Pollyanna thing that you were talking about, is I try to think about the good that's going to come out of it. Like starting the podcast. I mean, we were both nervous as all hell.
Yep.
And I don't know about you, but I was slightly terrified.
I was, but I wanted to do it more than I was terrified of it.
Exactly. Same. I was nervous about telling people about it. I was nervous about doing it. But you know what? I really wanted it. I wanted it so bad, and we did it. And, here we go. We're meeting all these great people. People are listening. We get to do all this great stuff. So it's awesome. I just moved recently, as people who watch can tell, because sometimes there's boxes behind me. And I hate moving. Moving is awful. I hate it. It brings up so much from my childhood and just crazy, painful experiences, which one day we'll get into. But I knew in this situation, it was a really good thing for me. And so I had to prepare myself for that change. And that's usually that's a kind of change that you can prepare for, right? Like you can, at least for me, I had to like prime myself for it. Like, I know there's going to be some stress. There's going to be this. I need to make sure I'm trying to sleep as much as I can. I need to have some structure to it. I need to have as many of my ducks in a row as I can. I need to know that something's probably going to come up. So I need to be prepared for it. And I need to know that there's going to be a lot of emotion, and I just need to be prepared for it. It's going to happen. So, whatever, like, I just need to be like, just let it come, get it done. And in the end, it's going to be this good thing because I'll be back in my own place and blah, blah, blah. Sometimes with changes like that I know are coming, I can prepare myself for. But it's the changes that are just like out of the blue that, even if they aren't like these big earth-shattering, upending changes, those are the ones that I'm like, damn it, that kind of chat my ass a little bit. And then I'm like, okay, I have to talk myself down off the ledge. Like, come on, back off. It's not that bad. It's not the end of the world.
Can you think about one specifically, like something that happened that you weren't expecting?
Okay, so going along with the move, right? So moving in here, I show up. The apartment that I was supposed to move into wasn't ready. Like, not even close.
Oh my
Not even
God,
close.
that's huge.
Oh yeah, it's huge. Like not just, oh, they weren't done cleaning it. The floors weren't done yet. Like, all of the appliances were in the breezeway and the subfloor was just being put down.
Oh my gosh. So what happened?
I was just like, okay. So I like talked to myself, because inside I was livid. And literally years prior, I would have cried my eyes out. I would have started yelling at somebody. I would have literally come undone.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, just breathe. So I called the management office. I'm like, okay, here's a scoop. Talk through that. They're like, well, we have another unit. You know, we can put you in that one, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, long story short, they put me in a totally different unit. And there's been some issues. It's not been a perfect move. I didn't lose my shit, which I'm really proud of myself for. And thank God for therapy and coping skills, because like I said, I mean, years prior, I would have lost it. I would have lost it. But I
mean,
didn't.
that's a big change of plans. That's not a
It's
little
huge.
thing.
Yeah, it is huge. And I was like, okay, all right, we're just gonna, they have another place, they're gonna put me in. Okay, fine, I'll just deal. It's fine. It's fine. It isn't fine. I'm pissed, but it's okay. Shit happens. So I'm in here. I'm in the process of, you know, unpacking and all the things. And, you know, and yeah, there's things that have happened that I'm like, yeah, this isn't the ideal space that I mean, there's like my apartment, cute as a button. I'm still decorating, whatever. I love it. I'm really, it has achieved, it has given me what I wanted it to give me, my own space again, closer to work, back in the area of town that I like to live in. It's giving me my sanctuary, right? But the idea that I originally had in my head of, this is where I'm going to be for whatever, and it's going to be this whatever this, I don't know, idealized whatever vision I had. Okay, so it's not that idealized vision, but it's still okay. So I've had to work through that, and it's okay. Is it ideal? Is this what I wanted it to turn out to be? No, there have been some things that I literally have had to just wrestle with and have some stern conversations with people about, which I would prefer not to have these stern conversations. I would prefer that things just be easy and joyous and da, da, da. But I know it's achieving what I need it to achieve. And I may have to pivot and think of what my next step is. My next step may be different than what I thought it was going to be, but that's okay. Every once in a while, I get into like a comparison trap where, you know, I'm like, oh, well, all these people are doing this and they're doing that, and I'm still doing blah, 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 blah. I'm like, nope. Yeah, this isn't what I thought I was going to be doing this year, but it's okay. There's still a lot of good in my situation. I just have to learn to figure out what my next plan is going to be. My therapist calls it problem solving.
Nice.
Like she always knows when I'm in a bad place, because I start saying, I can't. But when I start saying, so I'm going to do this, or I'm going to figure out what my next thing is, or whatever, then she's like, okay, you're in problem solving mode. You're good. You're okay. That's a way that I have been able to deal with the big changes, is I have to do problems. And I even do that with little changes. Like, okay, now what? Now what do I do? How do I fix this? How do I figure it out?
It's an excellent tool. All right, I'm going to read you some quotes about change, and you tell me briefly what you think of these quotes. Okay, so this one's from Wayne Dyer. He said, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, and
That's it.
I think
That's
that's
real brief.
yeah.
Yep.
Yep, yep. Well, but it does make sense though, because if you change the lens through which you look at things, those things change.
Yeah.
You know, if you see that everything is awful, it's going to be awful. But if you see that maybe there's some positive, or if you don't want to go that far, or you can't go that far, if you just see, you know what, it's not the end of the world, there's a way out of this, or I'm still standing.
I'm still standing. I forgot to sing through the whole thing, so you gave me my first opportunity.
I'm
I don't
so
know the rest of
glad.
that song either.
That's good.
All right.
Because if you did, then we'd probably have to pay rights, and we don't have that kind of budget.
Right. Okay, this one's from Steve Jobs. He said,
Okay.
for the past 33 years, I have looked in the mirror every morning and asked myself, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I'm about to do today? And whenever the answer has been no for too many days in a row, I know I need to change something.
That smacks of a whole lot of privilege to me.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. And I was thinking, if you knew it was your last day, is anyone going to do what they have planned? Heck, I'm going to
No.
spend my time wrapped up with my children.
Yeah.
But most of us are going to work, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay, cool. I like that answer.
Thank you.
All right, this one's Gilda Radner. She said, life is about not knowing, having to change, taking the moment and making the best of it without knowing what's going to happen next.
I like the part about making the best of it. Yeah. Because you never know what's going to happen. You never know. None of us has a crystal ball.
Didn't, though, when you were growing up, didn't you think, I don't know, I sort of thought you do whatever, you go to school or you don't go to school, you get some kind of job, you get married, and then it's just settled. Life is
Yeah.
settled.
Yeah. I
It's
did.
never
Think that.
settled.
No, not ever. Not ever. And I used to think, man, I thought grown-ups knew everything. Well, not all grown-ups, because I always thought I was smarter than most grown-ups. But like I thought people just had it figured out that after a certain age, you're done and you just coast and things are,
Yeah.
just planned out.
Kids have no idea, do they?
Nope.
I think I've been real honest with my kids about that on purpose,
Yeah.
because I don't want them to think that one day it's just all settled.
Yeah.
Because I really thought that.
Yeah. I don't think my mom and I ever talked about that part of life. Like my mom always said, stuff like, you'll change jobs probably multiple times. You may even change careers multiple times, that kind of thing. And she always said, don't get married too young, live your life, that kind of stuff. But I don't remember us ever talking about, well, what happens after that?
I mean, I should have noticed in my own family with all the divorces and stuff going on, like that should have been clear to me. But for some reason, I did not connect those dots.
Yeah.
All right, this is the final one, and this is from C.S. Lewis. And he said, it may be hard for an egg to turn into a bird. It would be a jolly sight harder for it to learn to fly while remaining an egg. We are like eggs at present, and you cannot go on indefinitely being just an ordinary, decent egg. We must be hatched or go bad.
Huh. What it makes me think is, if you stay literally where you are and you don't ever grow or change or evolve, you just become stagnant. You become a bad egg.
A bad egg.
A bad egg. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Nobody wants to be a bad egg. Or at least I don't. I don't want to be a bad egg.
All the spirituality reading that I have done and listening, especially to Eckhart Tolle in his podcast, he specifically says that we must have change, we must have some strife and some stress and some what we would call problems in order to evolve. If we don't have those things, we don't change and grow and become better versions of ourselves. And I guess it's our choice at that point whether we take that opportunity to change and learn and grow, or whether we
Mhm.
change to become the bad egg. I love this bad egg. I don't want to be a bad egg.
I don't want to be a bad egg.
Do you remember Charlie and the Chocolate Factory when
Oh,
the one shouting kid gets on there and they're like all these kids are rotten, but this one gets up there and gets on the egg thing and it goes bad egg, beep, and down the chute she falls.
bad egg. Yeah. I
Bad
don't want to
egg.
be a bad egg.
You're right. No
Well,
bad eggs.
no bad eggs. No bad eggs. There's so much to learn and experience that I still want to learn and experience. Like, I can't imagine not wanting to learn more stuff.
You got to embrace change in order to do that.
Yeah. So I guess in some ways I'm okay with change, but in other ways, like, change really just scares the daylights out of me. And maybe that's true for most people.
Remember when I said at the beginning that you're either you like it or you don't? Now I'm thinking
Yeah,
I'm thinking it's a whole spectrum.
I think so. I think so. Like, I've said sometimes that I like change when it's in my favor.
Well, yeah. Me too.
Exactly. Like, if the change is, there's going to be more money in my bank account. Sure. I like that change. I like that change a whole lot. That is a really good change. I'm here for that.
But if
Bad.
ultimately what these spirituality teachers are saying in that these things that we perceive to be bad or annoying or frustrating push us to grow, then
Mhm.
ultimately isn't all change in your favor?
Oh,
It's deep. It's deep.
that's good.
Right.
Oh, wow. Damn, Jennifer. Look at you being all deep and, dropping knowledge. Look at,
Yep.
man, that's good. That was so deep. I'm so proud of you.
No bad eggs. All change. What did I say?
All changes for your good.
All changes for your good.
That's something that I'm going to be thinking about for a while.
I mean, I don't know if it's true. I just said it.
I think there's some truth to that. Like, how there's some people who literally they have never experienced anything in life at all, like no adversity at all, and you're like, that person just doesn't get it. Like, that person has no way of seeing life through somebody else's lens because they've never experienced it. And I'm not saying that I want people to experience bad things. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it's much easier to be empathetic if you've been there. And I think it takes a very special person to be able to be empathetic having not had those experiences.
Yeah, I'd
Or
agree.
or at the very least having not had some adversity of some sort. I think adversity can either lead you to be bitter or it can lead you to be empathetic.
Better.
Yeah.
Bitter or better.
Oh, look at you.
Yep. I don't know what's with
Man,
me today. I'm singing and just
you're
pulling these
singing
things
and
out.
you're deep, man.
Yeah. What are your final thoughts on this change thing?
I think change is necessary. If you don't have some change in your life, you can become stagnant. You become stuck. And I don't think that's a good place for most people. And I think sometimes it's really easy to confuse stagnant with comfortable,
Mhm.
you
Or
know?
safety.
Yeah. Yeah. And yes, safety is good, comfortable is good, but
Control.
still,
Now I'm Janet Jackson. Control. That's all I remember of that song too. I'm not really good at this today.
no, you're really good. You're hitting all the high points. You remember the hooks of all the songs. So there you go. That's what most people remember.
Well, I remembered it was
But
Janet Jackson, so I guess there's something there.
Yeah, so there you go. But yeah, but I think if you stay too long in a place that's not working for you, it just leads to more pain.
Yes.
Yeah.
Self-inflicted pain and suffering
Mhm.
from being unwilling to change.
We are very wise today.
Toot toot of our own horns.
Why not?
Thanks, Raquel.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Thanks everyone for listening today. We will be back with more Madness Cafe next week. You can find us on Instagram at Madness Cafe Podcast or email us at madnesscafepodcast@gmail.com. Bye.